Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the Come Fly With Me event, in which the Zhuque is added to the game. So, of course, last weekend we just had a Vault event weekend, and one thing that ended up happening that week that's a bit more relevant now that, of course, a lot more Vault keys are around, is they ended up adding Empress, as well as the Wand, to the Vault key drop table. So, great time to go open a bunch of Vault keys to go get Empress, as she, of course, is permanently in the drop table now. However, she's among one of the better tarot cards in the game, and now with more stocked Vault keys, great time to try opening for her. Anyways, aside from that, biggest thing we have going on this week is a new faction this Friday for Vulpacea, the new kingdom. And let's start getting into things. So first things first, one other thing that actually happened last week, before we get into the event troop, Fang Moore actually has is a troop available. So if he ends up skipping on it in order to conserve some gems, or just skipped on it for any reason, it is available now, if we can get it without rolling too many times, please. It is indeed in this drop table, if it'll let me. No, that's the wrong epic. I know you're in here. Come on, give us the right one. There he is, but there it is. The Satori Mage. So if you haven't already gotten this thing in the past, it is right there. You can easily get one copy and then use 2 blue orbs on it, or however else you want to do it, or keep going until you get a bunch of them. But yeah, if you didn't end up getting... Oh, of course, now we get 2 of them after not getting any for a little while. But yeah, if you want to go and get him, if you didn't in the past, he has been available as of last Friday. So you could just do that whenever you want now if you want to go and end up getting him for completionist purposes, if you happen to have skipped on it. So as far as the event is concerned, we have this little bird. It's pretty good for the current world event, though I don't really see it being used for much else. You can stock up on red, yellow arcane, so great time to do that if you still need them for any upgrades. As far as the troop itself, it's pretty underwhelming, though its traits make it very useful in the current event, if nothing else. It gives a bunch of magic to all allies, boosted by spirit gems, and then enchants them. So this is a good way to basically full enchant your entire team if using a pure red team. This is just extremely niche, and compared to things that could just enchant you better than this, it's just not really going to be worth using. Most notably Mistralis, but even earlier on in the game, it's just not going to be worth having this as an enchant option. Even with the slightly more limited amounts that you have. Like, I can't see it as ever being used on a red Guild War day, which of course is one of the few things that is like trying to be geared towards. However, its traits are good for one thing, and that is the current event. It gets to summon a Firestorm, and you're restricted to reds on the current event, and you get to gain bonus red mana, and of course that synergizes into itself, having a Firestorm to make more reds fall into the board, while also giving more red to your team. And when you're restricted to a pure red team, it can end up being somewhat useful, but it's never going to be used in a Guild War context, so it's going to be used for this current World event and then pretty much never touched again. Though I do like when the new troop is usable for the World event. Anyways, as far as the event key drop table, the new troop that just came in does bring Shentang to 21 stars, and I believe this is extra tribute reward, which isn't really anything particularly special, but another star for the pile. Yep, tribute reward, there we go. Anyways, as far as the event key drop table is concerned, it is associated to Shentang. As far as what is available from Shentang, every single thing from Shentang except for these 5, being the Doom of Darkness, which is from Purple Dooms, and the 4 faction troops, which are all from the Lair, are not in the drop table. Everything else that you see here is. So it's pretty skippable event key week, unless you're just trying to get the kingdom upgraded. Is one of the only few instances where you'd really go for it. Most of the things here are rather average or underwhelming, or some utility troops that are just already low enough rarity that you probably already have them laying around, like Diviner. I would say the main things that you would be going for if you are opening the event keys, though, are to try to get Yaogwei and Quillin. But shouldn't you take as many because they are both legendary and not higher rarity? They are both used for some of the best non-mythic teams in the entire game. Yaogwei being used for Queen Titania plus Yaogwei, and Quillin being used for Divine Ishbala plus Quillin. They're not used as much in the current state of the game, however, they are both still really good options, particularly for no mythic teams, so they're both worth considering for that purpose. The only thing that's maybe somewhat okay in mythics is Huanglong. It's almost like a damage-based Gorgotha. It has a really high score reduction at 70 while still having a way to cleanse itself. The biggest issue with this is it has a lot of RNG factors, and if it gets lucky on those RNG factors, it's really good value. However, if it gets really unlucky, it's basically just doing a full AoE damage. But it has a lot of extra things, like being able to gain attack while also being super bulky, being able to gain an extra turn, which in itself is amazing, being able to gain barrier and bless, make it even tankier with a 70% reduction, and also being able to gain enchant so it can get its next cast even quicker. And the more of these that you have trigger, as they all have an independent 50% chance of triggering other than the AoE, which is 100%, Of course, the more of these that you get, the better. However, very rarely are you going to be getting most of them to trigger, but even just 2 or 3 of them trigger can give it a lot of value. It's just really inconsistent, and due to its inconsistency, it's very rarely used, as you would generally want more consistent options. But it is among one of the stronger dragons in the game, especially when it's on the luckier side. And yeah, so you're mostly just opening event keys for Quillen and Yaogwei, and that's basically that, unless you're trying to get the kingdom upgraded for star purposes, as if you do want to end up getting it, it does give the stats of HP, if you want to go get like the 10-star, 20-star milestones and all those kind of things. Anyways, as far as the reward event, it is very straightforward. It is just rarity order, just don't take Harpy Eagle. It's as easy as that. So, of course, we'd want to take the Mythics here, then work our way to Legends, so on and so forth, and just don't take Harpy Eagle until you're forced to have to take Harpy Eagle. Restriction is Divine Elf, as well as Red within that category. As far as options, basically any kind of strong AoEs, going to be some of your best options, Infernus, Guard's Avatar, Stralis, if you need something cheaper, the free one that you get from Shentang, Penglong, pretty good. Summer's Fury for cheaper weapon as well, you just get from Mastery, though we also have access to bigger ones, like Dawnbringer, for example, if you want to go down that, or you could go for any explodey weapons and use that into the bigger AoE options that we already have, like Fist of Heaven, to get the Divine Synergy and stuff like that, depending on how you want to go about it. So there's quite a few options, shouldn't be too bad. Unfortunately, it is only spell damage and not spell and skull, as there are a few ways to utilize skull, particularly since we have Infernus, so we could do triple damage skulls. A couple of them have skull spam as well, so unfortunately, can't really fully utilize that synergy due to it only being magic damage this time around. As far as other things that we have going on, of course, we still have the Kingdom Pass going along. Make sure to make progress on that, as well as, standard campaign, as we pretty much always have. Week 6 as of currently, which I believe is the week of the weapon as well. Was the weapon any good? Let me double check. I actually don't remember if this one was. Create some red gems and convert all red gems to spirit gems. Oh yeah, this one actually is good. This one has some interesting implications. It's basically a consistent mana drain weapon for hero. Not like that doesn't already exist, but it's going to give a lot of mana accumulation while also mana draining. It'll be situational. Biggest issue is it doesn't feed back into itself, so you have to feed blue into something that can then feed back purple or yellow into this, which will make it a little bit clunky, but compared to other mana drainers. But it could be situationally used, as hero doesn't have too many good ways to mana drain. So, a nice utility weapon, if nothing else. Anyways, other things that we have going on this week. Tuesday, we have ourselves a faction event for Laj's Lair, among one of the more annoying ones. So if you want to do it with the extra bonuses, might be worth considering. Given that we have potion effects always in Underworld, there isn't as much of a need to mass buy on Tuesday events. However, this is one of those few that is so absurdly annoying that you might want to have it done on a Tuesday event, so you can end up getting all those additional stats, as it is probably top 3 worst or hardest to do pure factions in the game due to the sheer amount of RNG, as every single troop in this kingdom has like 3 different options they could end up doing, one of the 3, and is very random which one you'll get and very inconsistent, and having a bunch of additional stats and effects and such can make it quite a bit easier to end up completing. Wednesday we have the little panda pet thing. Thursday, it's not a new one. It's just for, gosh, which troop does it end up buffing? It buffs the legend from... It buffs a very useless legend from the kingdom, if I'm not mistaken. And this is also the first time it's been available completely for free. You can technically get it just from the pet drop table. You might have even gotten one last weekend. However, this was the gem locked one from a couple events ago for those, not the journey, the Legends Reborn thingies. So whenever we get those like 4 new pets. So yeah, that was the gem locked one. But the thing that it buffs is pretty useless, unfortunately. Thursday, we have ourselves the class event for Monk. Monk, very situational. Obviously, with all the Barrier Brown hero classes, it's in a weird niche as far as its usability. There's just so many better ones, most notably Elementalists, that very rarely does it come out. But it does have a few things going for it with its mana accumulation. It's a really high amount of immunities to most things. It actually has the highest amount of immunity of any hero class in the game. So it has a few niche purposes that can end up making it useful. And this Friday, as I mentioned, we are getting a new faction. The new faction being associated to, of course, the new kingdom. And that should also bring it, I believe, to 6-star or 7-star. It might not seem like it's gaining that many because currently it's 5-star. But that's mostly because the lower star levels take quite a bit more in order to actually end up getting any levels onto them. Aside from that, as far as Soulforge is concerned this week, I believe there was only one good option, and that was, where to go? Obsidious. So Obsidious, very situational. It's not something you would use on every team. However, its most noteworthy attribute is its 4 times stun. It is the best way to apply 4 times stun in the entire game, as it's the only way, other than I think a few abilities that might have it here and there. But as far as on a trait, it can very consistently, one single extra turn, 100% of the time, end up stunning the entire enemy team. This is, of course, most notably synergized with Curse, so you could 4 times Curse into 4 times stun, meaning that with one singular extra turn, you can end up Curse stunning the entire enemy team, even if they have Impervious. Of course, that one indestructible trait thingy still has immune to that. However, you can still bypass things like Impervious, immune to stun, all that kind of stuff, just with the Curse stun. So pretty good synergy there, though do keep in mind if you are doing something like that off of trait, the cursor has to be in front of your stunner. So whatever you're using as your 4 times curse option, assuming it's from its trait, you have to have it in front of your Obsidious if you're doing it specifically off the extra turn, as the curse, the order of sequence goes based on top left to top bottom right, meaning that your curse will trigger before the stun if it is placed before your Obsidious. The only bad thing about this is you can't end up using a Stone Skin, but of course you can also just do teams that you don't end up needing to do that for. Like, let's say they don't have any Imperviouses and just have some annoying traits. You can put this in first slot and then stunning out all their traits and just not have to deal with it. This ability is pretty underwhelming and pretty inconsistent because the you don't always guarantee get the extra damage. However, you're mostly only ever using it for its stun. And it's literally brought out only for that purpose. Anyways, as far as weapons are concerned, I would say there are 2. The one really noteworthy one, of course, we just had a Guild War week, but if you want to get it for next Guild War week, Green Book. It is available. Highly advise getting it if you want to set it on your defend team. It's not really used for much else other than Guild War defend, so it's probably not super high priority, but if you have the resources, particularly later in the game, you definitely want to pick it up at some point, and now you can do it this week. Other than that, Sky Hero, it's basically a weaker version of the weapon we just got through the Kingdom Pass. So that weapon, basically, you got to explode a 3x3 square, and then create 10 green. It also had a choice for a convert. But comparatively to that, it was an explode into 10 green. This is a destroy a column into 4 red plus 4 per yellow destroyed. So this is used generally all the way on the left or right column, and ideally with as many yellow in that column as possible. It's very situational, and you need at least 3 yellows in a column to really make it work in order to get to 12. And honestly, in the new weapon that is added the other week, it just seems so much superior to this now, but it's still an alternative that can be used. It's just very, very situational, and it might be worth having just for those situations. But other than that, you might just want to get a little bit better value if you just go like a standard explodey weapon or something similar. But overall, it's still worth considering. But if there's any one thing as far as weapons are concerned, it's definitely to get Doomed Libram. You're going to need to get it at some point, and if you have the spare resources to get it now, assuming you have way more than enough greens than you're going to need, it might be worth considering. Anyways, so let's go over a bunch of teams. Hey, Tribute's ready. Gotta grab that. Especially with how many gems we spent last weekend. We'll need to go open all those vault keys to make up for it. Those angels and daemons, that mechanic's been out for, what, week now? 2 weeks? I'm already losing track. But of course, with the version 6.8 patch, and last weekend, definitely a good time to go get them. Of course, you could farm them whenever, though. Anyways, so as far as teams, not too many to go over, since we will be covering a completely separate video on the new faction when it comes out this Friday. So we have teams going over everything else other than that. So this very first one, we have an explodey weapon into Infernus with Yagwe. I do have Spider Totem here. This could backfire. I'm not sure if I fully want to go down this route. However, it does get to do the brown the web being purple, and we can end up feeding that into Infernus. Infernus goes crazy from there, and then we just get a bunch of red. He has, of course, Firestorm, so we can end up doing that. He has 4 times burn, and while we do not have access to additional skull damage, we do have access to triple damage burning. We also will be doing Perpetual Red Storm, which of course benefits us greatly when running a pure red team, which we're forced to have to be. The alternative to that is utilizing the new bird. So the new bird, as I was mentioning earlier, has a Firestorm at start of battle. This will only trigger for the first 4 turns, but that is better than nothing. And also has Fire Link, so you can use multiple of these together, especially if you don't have other options, in order to feed more red to the rest of your team, since your entire team is going to have to be red. You could even triple up on them if you really want to, and just go into something like Summer's Fury, a really easy to obtain hero weapon, just from leveling up your red mastery a little bit. Just hits all enemies and creates a little bit of red, which might be able to feed it all the way back, especially with the extra reds off of the Zhuque, as well as the Red Storm, as well as your banner being double red. And I just put a Pengalong here. You get it for free from completing out the Shentang Kingdom, which is associated to this week anyways. And yeah, it's just an AoE option. It's pretty standard, just AoE with a little bit of tankiness, just a little bit of extra AoE damage, as you will probably get excess mana whenever you do Summer's Fury. If it ends up landing, you might get it 4 times, 5 times, all that kind of stuff. And with all the extra red, it will leak into the Penglong, and then you can use Penglong as your second AoE option. Even on the lower range, I might end up utilizing something like this. As for the super low battles, it'll end up working quicker. But if you don't have any of the higher rarity stuff, you can pretty much run something along these lines the entire way. I also replaced it out for Elementals instead of a Mana Start hero class. You could go for down Sunspear or anything else as well, or even a half Mana Start hero class. Main reason for Elementals is just to make it tankier, so you can end up surviving. Anyways, aside from that faction, we have ourselves the yellow-purple Laraz's Lair, which I always think is blue-purple because the legend from the kingdom actually has perpetual blue-purple storm, so you can end up utilizing that. However, the coloration itself is yellow-purple, so I'm probably going to go down the Guard's Avatar team, but I've been showing it so much lately that I figured, why not show one the other one? So, of course, bring back the classic Triple Finesse. I believe this battle also has like a lot of yellows on the first and final battle, which, of course, something like this is always pretty good for. Ends up doing a bunch of damage, though. The most notable thing is that when there's a storm in play, ends up giving a bunch of mana to all other allies, and you can just infinitely keep casting this over and over again, as long as you don't mana drain you. You have perpetual yellow storm off your hero in order to trigger that, and you just get finesses up, and they just keep going and casting every single turn. And you just keep doing that until you win, and they're bulky enough generally to not die. And if they do, well, you got 2 other ones. Anyways, you can also do the Strix weapon too to have backup summon if you want, though I showed it with Nimbus Bow here. And you can also do it pretty much with any weapon. It's mostly the triple finesse with the hero class that ends up doing it. And of course, for the higher range, we have very standard High King Iron Gut Zolgoth, if he has access to both yellow and purple. So you can do the standard mana loop of Thrall Leprechaun, or not mana loop, but you know, the really strong mana options of Thrall Leprechaun, and just feed the 2 better options for running the Underworld, both High King Iron Gut and Zolgoth. So a really easy faction to end up doing that. However, what is not easy is the pure faction battle. So, when you get to pure faction, it is basically pure luck. You have to go spam your Dementicores, and they drain all mana from an enemy, or steal a bunch of attack, or silence an enemy. Meaning they have a 2 out of 3 chance to end up affecting their cast, and a 1 in 3 chance to affect their attack. The main way that you want to end up doing this to do the pure faction is you go and spam first slot in hopes that you steal their attack. This is the main thing you want to do, and drag them down to a very low attack value. Soon after that, once mana pools start to hit half, or any of the bigger threats on the opposing team start to get higher mana, you then want to start spamming these on whatever threat is starting to get its mana. This will make sure that you will, out of 2 out of 3 chance, either mana drain them or silence them, both of which will hinder them from casting for some amount of time. Silence, of course, draining all their mana, and silence just maintaining their mana, however, making it so they can't gain any more mana for at least a couple turns. So that's pretty much the whole strategy. Attack spam reduce the first slot, go in, try to mana drain or silence whatever's a threat they're about to do, and then you eventually have enough attack to just obliterate the entire team, and the rest is just for support. Laraz's here is almost entirely here for the Storm, as well as for the little bit extra purple mana. You could even double up on her if you want. Though I do have a Chaos Hound here. In case one of your Dementicores die, you do have backup resummon here, so you can end up having a final battle of Chaos Hound, Dementicore, Chaos Hound, and Larza. But you can also go triple Dementicore Larazza, or double Dementicore double Larazza, or anything similar like that. It really comes down to preference, and after you try it a few times, and it will take a few times unless you're have really high stats, as it is among one of the harder ones in the game. But with enough times, you'll definitely end up getting it. You'll eventually get really good RNG and get the attack reductions when you need them, get the mana drains and silences when you need them, and hopefully it'll work out. But sometimes you just never get the attack reductions, or other times you just never get the drains or other things when you need them. And it can fall apart very quickly based on pure RNG, is pretty much everything here, except for the mana accumulator that's kind of useless. Ends up having a 3 different mechanic that's just really luck-based. Anyways, lastly here, Monk Hero class, this is restricted to Elf from Shentang. So we're basically just using a Diviner to feed a bunch of yellow. In this case, we're using Dawnbringer, but you can also alternate that instead if you don't happen to have Dawnbringer for that one weapon. Oh gosh, what is that one called? It's from the Leonis Empire Hero class. I can't remember its name, but it's just purely yellow. You get it from 250 wins on it. Pretty easy to obtain. Otherwise, you can run Dawnbringer or literally any yellow full AoE weapon you have, though Dawnbringer ends up working out the best. Anyways, guys, it's a full rundown on everything this week. We'll be going over all the tasks as we normally do tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the channel, and probably open a lot of vault keys this week. We ended up getting several hundred last weekend, and we'll continue to grind on that and try to repair some of those gems that all the merchants have been taking from us, as they have quite a few good offers. I might cover a video soon going over the full comprehensive list. I'm not sure if anyone has posted the full list. I'm pretty sure at this point I kind of know what the full list is, even without knowing that, as we've kind of cycled through every single loot. As there are definitely some better than others, and some of them aren't as obvious as others, and of course, some of them are also based on how much gems you have. Like Triple Nisha being pretty good, but of course, if you don't have a lot of gems, probably the first one you want to start skipping, as while its value is really good if you have a lot of gems, it just eats too many gems for you to take every single time if you happen to have a lower gem amount. But anyways, guys, I'll wrap it here for now. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to leave a like on the video, as it helps a lot and is greatly appreciated, and I'll catch all of you guys later. Goodbye, everyone, and have a wonderful week.